And welcome back in to I Just Kind of Figured. Blake here, joined once again by Ross. We made it to number 2.
Hello.
That's half the battle. That is half the battle, Ross. I hope they're digging that opener. That is a smooth opener, royalty free. Found it online. We hit the jackpot there. We are winning.
Yeah, apologies. I tried to edit out the guy whispering in the background. It's a little creepy, but got a real good 90s feel to it. So, yeah, it's good to be back for week 2. Our funding has not been pulled yet, and we have received no complaints from SoundCloud. So we're good. We're rolling.
So far, so good. I will have to say, I'm still learning this whole thing, Ross, because as we speak, I figured it would be a good idea to also run my dishwasher while recording this. So if you hear anything in the background, that's why it just sounds like I'm recording from, a kitchen in Red Robin or something with just all this sort of noise just going on in the background. But hopefully it's not too bad. So
we're angling for a sponsorship still.
Any way we can. Any way we
Red
can.
Robin, if we can use your recording space / kitchen, we'd appreciate it.
Always looking for that remote opportunity. So Ross, what's going on, man? How's your week?
Pretty average. I was thinking that's a horrible way to start. I was thinking there was 2 events that kind of were mirrors of one another. There was the World Series we saw end, and there was Halloween, both of which had a great build-up and a terrible finish. I won't get too much into it, obviously, but, watch the World Series. Game 7 sucked, but congrats Astros, whatever. But Halloween came and went, and I don't know if you did anything for Halloween.
I actually watched the miserable Game 7, and it's funny because we recorded...
Oh, that was Halloween.
Yeah,
okay.
We recorded the day of Game 5 last week, which was by far one of the best World Series games of all time, so far back and forth. But as we touch on, the World Series last week a little bit more and the best World Series, favorite World Series, it would only be appropriate as we came off just completely unbeknownst, lack of preparation, lack of thinking, whatever you want to call it. We just came off as the ultimate anti-Cub fans, just being a Cardinal and a White Sox fan. We gave no props.
Unintentional.
Yeah, no props to the 2016 World Series as one of the best, and it really was. Cubs come back from down 3-1, beat the Indians on the road. Another extra inning game, that they blew and then came back and won, broke a 108-year curse. We'd already forgotten about it, so sorry on that one because it definitely deserves to be in the mention, if not among the tops. That complaint came from 2 of the people that I forced to sit down and listen to what we did last week, and they're just like, I have a real problem with what you guys are doing.
Well, and we even knew it right after we stopped recording. I even said, "Oh man, we left out 2016." I know that for a fact. So
which it was great. Well, we forgot about that, and kind of my week, I forgot about another major event. And that was my Nana's birthday. Her birthday is on Halloween. I know growing up that we always said, her birthday's on Halloween. She's a witch.
She's really spooky.
The nicest lady ever.
That's what she wants you to think.
Yeah. We always said, Nana is a witch. She's always busy on her birthday. Anyway, I'm talking to my sister a couple days later, like November 2nd or so, and she's like, "Did you wish Nana a happy birthday?" And I'm like, "Oh no." Didn't. So, of course, I knew what was coming. She is just the sweetest woman, but she is also the queen of just making you feel terrible even without... So I call her, "Hey, Nana, how you doing? Hey, by the way, I know I'm a couple days late.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but happy birthday." And she gives me just the ultimate... Just what she's become famous for is just like... "Well, thank you so much for that. I was wondering when you were going to call." So it's kind of like she was just waiting by the phone.
That stings.
I knew you wouldn't forget. I just knew it. I figured you were busy, and it just, it felt good to... I don't have another chance to do... That was my one mulligan, though. I think she kind of made that clear without straight up saying it. She's like, "Well, I'm sure it won't happen again." And I really hope that it doesn't.
I'm just like crawling inside. That makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, Nana was just...
Well, you did the right thing. You made up for it.
Yeah,
and
so,
it happens.
Yeah, it definitely happens. I'm sorry.
Well, and if I can, you mentioned you had a story about your grandma. I thought of one as well. It wasn't my grandma's birthday this past week. But it reminded me of the time I was in I think 9th grade. So this is 2003. And my grandma had asked me to come over and do some yard work or something. But this is
good.
This is '03, so you didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a car. there was just, there was just no way to organize your life the way you did today. And you're in ninth grade, so who cares?
Right.
So my grandma asked me to come over and do some yard work, and I forgot. Like, honestly forgot. It was a total mistake. I felt bad about it. But I didn't realize I forgot until she called my house looking for me because I was past the time, I was late. And,
Your face is already on a milk carton.
Exactly. So she calls and she's a little disappointed. She just says, "Well, I'm just disappointed you forgot. You had that plan and you were supposed to come over and help me with yard work." And, me being a pissy teenager, ninth grade, I was kind of annoyed by it. I was like, "Yeah, I know. Sorry. I forgot." And so, get off the phone, we reschedule, whatever. So then I call my buddy because I had plans I'm a horrible grandson and made plans with my friends instead. And I call my buddy. I'm like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" "Yeah, nothing. My grandma's a bitch." And she's not. But then from the other room, I hear my oldest sister just go, "Ross!" And I felt pretty bad about it.
You
And
can't
just like
do
you're
that.
saying, my grandma is not a bad person. She is not the B word at all. I would never say that to anybody, let alone somebody I'm related to.
You would only say it to your friend.
It
Right then and there.
basically, yeah. And so I felt pretty bad about that, being an idiot teenager. But sometimes you just space, you forget about stuff, and
At
I
least
get.
I feel like had I done that with my Nana and I'd forgot, she would not call me and check. She probably would have done the yard work herself and then just said, "I ended up having to do it myself. And I think I hurt my back." I think, she would just make sure that just so that she could really drive it home. But
Right.
yeah, we still got work to do. Nobody said we were perfect, but that is what it is. Ross, we touched on it last week that the goal here, I don't even know if it is a goal, if we have a goal, but the kind of thing that we always talk about between each other when we are talking, it always seems to come up. We never talk about the present. We never talk about the future. It's always about the past. And mainly just growing up, and we both grew up in the 90s. Now, I will give a shout out, 87. I was born. So I had a brief touch in the 80s. Not that I can remember it, but I still pretend like I did. But the 90s, that was the sweet spot, man. That is where we both really became the people that we are today. We were all about the 90s, and that's what kind
The
of weird.
formative years, we should say. And I guess I was born in '89, so I got 5 full months of the '80s. So
More than others can say.
I
So,
guess so. But yeah, probably like, our wheelhouse is probably like 93 on, when we started playing games, watching movies, watching sports, whatever.
hanging with the neighborhood crew. So anyway, I just kind of figured that we would talk about something very important to us at the time. Video games, and more specifically, Super Nintendo. Like, I know that the 64 gets a major nod for the 90s. It even, finds itself back when we were in college and this and that. But Super Nintendo, the first big-time system that I myself had, and I still hold it very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, and I guess that was the system I had. We never had classic Nintendo, but when I was like 3 or 4, we got Super Nintendo. Never had the 64. So yeah, all the 90s, that was it. I never had the Sega Genesis, never had a Game Boy until way later. Also a funny story involving my grandma there. We'll get into that some other day.
What a
But
tease.
that was just like, that was the 90s. It was Super Nintendo for me, at least.
Absolutely. So, and I'm right there with you. I remember it was a Christmas gift from my aunt that I think she was also saying, you know what, let me just get this for all three of, me and my 2 sisters. Gift for all 3 of them. I look like a hero. They're happy, and I probably save a little coin on the other end too. So we got the Super Nintendo as a Christmas gift, and I was fired up. For lack of a better term, I was just fired up to get that thing. I'm like, let's go. Let's get my neighbor, my buddy growing up, David. He had been my source of video games up until then. Finally, I had something of my own, and I was ready to put in some major work on that thing. And boy, did I ever. Through up until college, where then I somehow lost it. I'm convinced my sister stole it, stashed it somewhere, because we had a healthy collection, though, of good games, and the games were just great. I mean, the games were awesome back then.
Yeah, and I think, I guess I was young enough to where we got it for Christmas, but we just kind of had it, by the time I remembered having it. I don't remember the day that we got it, but honestly, it's got such good playability. And yeah, I had it all throughout the 90s. And funny enough, my sister also lost mine because, like, and I legit know this because it was in perfect condition. And then, it was sitting in the basement. I had a newer system. I think I had a Dreamcast next. That was a real failure. And so my sister, after high school, decides she wants to move out and move it into an apartment. So as she's pillaging my mom's house for things she can take with her, oh, let me take this mint condition Super Nintendo with me that I'll never play. And so
It's for decor. We just
yeah.
fell off the place.
Long story short, she was not a good tenant and got evicted, and the landlord kept the Super Nintendo among many other items because I guess the landlord locked her out of the place or something. And like, we joke around a lot, but I honestly am still so mad to this day. That thing was in perfect condition. You're talking like a 20-year-old, well, by now it'd be 25-year-old system. And to have one
Right.
in good condition is super rare. And she just lost it. And if we still had it today, I would have it now. I'd still play it from time to time. But it met a horrible, horrible end, and I will never forgive her for that.
That landlord is just setting all the high scores on all the games you once owned.
And I spent a lot of time on those, and I'm really upset. But
Yeah.
no, that's how that came to an end. But luckily, I got a buddy who lent me one, and I just kind of have it now. It's pretty beat up, but I got it. It's fun to have. Whatever.
Sure. So, and I know I touched on, it was my younger sister and I, we would kind of go back and forth on it. I mean, I would put it in my room, and then I would go.
Oh, you guys had to trade off, man.
I would well, it was never a trade-off, though. It was like once the other one was gone, like out of the house, at a friend's house doing something. Oh, this is you go and you stash it back in your.
Right.
It got a lot of back and forth. It got a lot of, it got a lot of mileage there just between us, kind of passed around. So, and I think she was the one that ended up with it, but she stands by. Yeah, I don't know what happened to it. I'm not sure.
No, that's
damn well what happened to it. Let me see. Let me go through your house. Let me find this thing. So we had a lot of great games, and we thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about the games that that we played growing up. Not necessarily. Now, this isn't necessarily a list of quote unquote the best games, because I actually saw like an IGN list of like top 100 Super Nintendo games, and I wanted to see like of my 5 that I came up with that I played the most growing up that I enjoyed. Did any of what was the highest rated one? And my highest rated game actually barely cracked the top 20 at number 20. So that's kind of where it came, and that was probably. And I'm just going to jump right into it, Ross. I mean, that's kind of how it's going to go here. Is I'm going to just kind of go into my top 5, or do you want me to do you have yours in any specific order, or do you want me to do my 5, you do your 5, or?
Yeah, go with you. I just wrote down 5, and we were talking before we started recording. We're going to miss a whole section of games that we didn't play. So like you're saying, we're not saying these are the best. These are just some classics. And then we'll go into some of the obvious omissions. Like I can tell you right now, Zelda's probably not on your list, and it's not on mine.
There's no Castlevania. Right. There's nothing. I mean, no RPG. That's just how it goes.
I never played them, so I didn't list them.
Yeah, exactly. But that said, too, we were talking, and some of these games may get their own episode. I mean, we may, because I want to dive in on these. I mean, these were so important growing up to us. These have such nostalgic value that we'll probably dedicate a few episodes to some of these. But anyway, my number 5, that is actually the one that barely cracked the top 20 all-time list, and it was the game that came with the Super Nintendo. So it got a lot of play.
I didn't know they did that.
And I think it did. I don't know. Maybe my aunt just. I don't know. But this game got so much action. I played it. My sisters played it. My mom even got in on it. Super Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo, released in North America in 1993. And the beauty of this was that it just came with all the Super Mario games that had come out through the Nintendo Entertainment System. So this one single cartridge came with Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, and Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels. So I guess The Lost Levels, I was just reading up on that, was just the Super Mario World 2 version of, and that was released in Japan. So that, I mean, I played all of those. I know my mom was mainly just in Super Mario Brothers, but she did defeat one of the bosses. I did see her actually go through Bowser's Castle once and defeat him. It was a pretty big moment in the household. So that, just because of the game that came with the system, what we got a lot of play and a lot of family play, is my number 5. What was your number 5 there, Ross?
That's a really good stash of games right there. I only really ever played Super Mario World, as far as that whole um, array of games goes. So number five, it was hard to choose. I put Mario Paint slash Super Mario World, the original.
Nice.
Both Mario games, both good. Mario Paint, you got the little mouse pad and the mouse. You
Is Mario
could,
Paint the one that you can make music?
yeah, you make music. You could draw pictures. There was like this fly swatting game that was pretty intense. And then Super Mario World, of course, the classic original for Super Nintendo at least. Just days and days worth of playability there. You know, you go back, you beat the same levels, but it's still always fun. You know, so I went with the Mario selections for number five.
I don't know if anybody actually played. I don't think it's possible. I was just playing. It was on the regular Nintendo, but I was up at my buddy's place, and we played Super Mario Brothers. I don't think it's possible to play the game straight up. You know where the warps whistles are. You know how to skip levels. You aren't going any. You aren't playing the game. You know, through World 1, through World 2. You're going from World 1, running on the top of the screen in the second level to skip over to World 4 right away. Like that, I don't think I've ever played it straight up.
You know, and that makes me wonder. I don't know if you had that much capability with Super Mario World. Come to think of it, I mean, there were like shortcuts within levels, but no like mega hacks that you could get from like start to finish in a matter
I'm
of.
not talking hacks. I'm talking
Yeah.
talking World 1, Level 2 in the dungeon.
So they built those into the game like it was a legit.
You could go, if you don't know this, man, you got a lot of
Which game are you talking here?
Super Mario World, Super Mario Brothers. You
The
jump
original?
the original, the second level when you're down
Okay.
in the dungeon, you break the bricks at the very top of the level, you run across the top of the level, and then eventually you can drop down and pick to go to World 2, World 3, or World 4. Look it up. I just saved you a lot of time.
I honestly don't know if I knew about that.
Wow. Wow. Easter egg, not even an Easter egg.
Yeah. Well, okay. I for sure never did it. So I wasted a lot of time playing levels I didn't need to, I guess.
Yeah, but you also probably got to see a whole different game that I didn't. Anyway, that's good. That's a good start, I think.
Wow.
Here is a game that you're silently firing.
I think I'm going to book a therapy appointment. That is just, that was mind blowing.
Wow. You probably lost so many years off of your life just by wasting time playing the second
Well,
level.
now I feel like I did. I'm kind of upset with myself.
So I'm going to go ahead. I mean, there's no easy way to move from that to the
Childhood
next
trauma
game.
to number 4 on the list.
My number 4 game is a game that you and I actually played, and I love it because it was actually a game that I could still lose to the computer. I was big into sports games. I mean, it's just who I am. Not a real athlete myself, not very good at anything, but, you know, I like the sports games. And number 4 was Super Batter Up, and we even played that in college. And that game was released in North America, October '92. Great game. It was it even had the 1991 rosters. I loved it. It was an easy 2-button game. You know, A and B were pretty much the only buttons you needed, even though Super Nintendo had others. Love that game. Super easy to play. Only came with, you could pick between 3 different stadiums. Replica of Busch, replica of Wrigley Field, replica of the Sky Dome. Different dimensions, all that. A lot of fun. That said, though, funny story, and you remember playing this at your apartment, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because you haven't even been able to find it online. Like, you've been trying to buy it and you've had trouble.
Right.
So, funny story about this game. I never bought it myself. I won't use any names to protect the affected, but I actually did not buy this game, and I feel kind of bad about it. But you know, this kid sucked anyway. He was over at my buddy's house earlier that I'd mentioned, the Dave, and we were playing this Super Batter Up game, but it was his. And I asked to borrow it because I liked it, and I still have to return it. I still have yet to return the game.
Kids are just jerks sometimes.
yeah,
You just take other kids' things that aren't yours. I can relate to that.
That was bad. You know, but it was a great game. It is a great game. I would fire it up right now. Like I said, it is still a game that no matter how good you're at, you can still lose in it. So some games you get so good at that you just aren't going to take a loss in them. So Ross, what's your next game?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, number 4, I put Super Batter Up as well.
Nice.
Once again, second week in a row, we are in total agreement.
Cahoots.
But no, I actually didn't play this game until college, and it just stuck with me. It was a fun game. It was easy to learn, like pretty back and forth games. I remember we would play.
It was like
and yeah,
RBI baseball. pretty much for the Super Nintendo. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And it was just fun to pick up and play, and you could go back and forth all day on it. But yeah, I did try and buy a copy off of Amazon a couple of years ago, and it was in stock, and then Amazon told me it wasn't. They never shipped it. So I actually went as far as to try and buy it within the last 3 or 4 years. Because baseball, to me, I never played baseball on Super Nintendo because that is a very, how do I put this? You can either have the old school, like Ken Griffey Jr. style, like, real simple, that's all there is to it, or you have the baseball games of today. And baseball's a tough sport to put into a video game if it's that simple of a video game system. Because I had Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball for a time.
I had that too. It was awful.
And I tried to play it, and it just wasn't fun. Like hockey, you can kind of make a game out of that. It's more fun on Super Nintendo. Baseball just is not fun unless it's either really simple or done really well. And I feel like that's where Super Batter Up shines, is it's really simple and it's still fun.
And, the games take 15... They'll even show you at the end of games, like, how long the game... It'll take, like, 12 to 18 minutes, probably. The sweet spot's like 15-minute games, which is great. You can rip through a few of them. Loved it. Loved the game. Any other touches that you want to put on Super Batter Up?
No, that was just really the only baseball game I ever enjoyed for Super Nintendo.
Who was your team?
Well, I haven't played it since we played in college. So, was every team on there?
Every team as of 91. Yeah.
Okay, I would have probably played either the Athletics were really good.
Yeah,
the Cardinals were really
good.
bad. And I remember I played the A's a couple of times.
Blue Jays were really good.
That's who it was, yeah.
Blue Jays were really, really strong. So some good teams there. My number 3 game, again, man, all of my video games back in childhood, it would involve me calling my buddy Dave lived behind me growing up, and it would always just be me going to his house because even though I said, like, I got the Super Nintendo, we would always just go there anyway. I mean, we'd play, at his house. Play those video games, and this is the game that really we put a lot of time into. We still talk about it. I think I even bought it as an adult and then since lost it when my sister, we won't get back into that. This is WWF Royal Rumble. In the past episode, I talked about dressing up in college as Bret Hart. I grew up in the 90s. I was big into wrestling back then, and this game was just great. A simple button masher game per se, but a lot of fun. You had wrestler likenesses. You had my guy Bret Hart. You had Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Mr. Perfect, Razor Ramon, Ric Flair, all these guys. So a really good roster too. A lot of fun to play back and forth. This was released back in '93, so really kind of like when you said was like when we really started to take off and have actual thoughts as kids and make our own decisions. So. Released in '93, great game, just so much fun. A lot of different match types, like a Royal Rumble, a tag team. We spent hours, so many hours on that game, playing it, and really good memories there. So, Ross, what do you have?
I actually don't think I ever played wrestling for Super Nintendo. It was huge. Like, wrestling itself was big in the '90s, but I just never gravitated to it. So that's an interesting choice.
It's not.
I played a lot of sports games as well.
It was my childhood.
Yeah. I played a lot of sports games as well, and for number 3, I know the biggie here is a different year of this series, but I had this particular year. I had NHL '96, and I played Brett Hull hockey a lot before that, and I had Brett Hull hockey. Just the interface was a little less user-friendly. Then I got NHL '96. It was easy to pick up. It was fun. They had good-looking graphics, relatively speaking. But obviously, I know the one that's always talked about is NHL '94. So
legendary.
I had 2 years later. Still a very good game. And I will maintain that it had one of the coolest open screens, like the intro songs of all time. I'll see if I can post that in the description when we upload this. But it was funny because NHL '96, they had like the stadium music, like the organ playing.
Yes,
so it really kind of gave you the feel as much as you could get on a Super Nintendo. And I remember I wasn't one for strategy in these games, and so
did you turn off offsides? Did you turn?
Oh no, I should have, but I'm sure that made me cry at least a couple of times because they kept calling it. But
you just don't know what it is.
Right? Exactly. You can't understand that as like a 7-year-old. So I remember my strategy though was to get the puck with whoever my skater was and just go full speed as hard as I could into the goalie every single time. And it was moderately effective because a third of the time he would stop the shot. Another third of the time, you'd get called for interference and you'd go to the
Right.
box. But it's the other third that was key is
The money.
you'd score. So
Yeah.
I figured that I wasn't going to learn passing or offense of any sort. Just run it right into the goalie and see if you can mash it into the goal. And it worked a lot of the time.
Strategy at its finest. Yeah. NHL 94, I only ever rented, but I owned NHL 95. I got that with allowance money. And allowance money back in the day, you know, for games that were $50, like I think I'd probably spent a good amount of time saving up that money, and then poof, it's gone. But at least I had a new game.
Well, and it's an investment. It keeps you busy for hours.
Right.
So, and I guess that's still what I tell myself as a 28-year-old adult. So maybe I should grow the hell up.
a lot of time, a lot of time spent in the mid '90s NHL games, and they have gotten great too. Like some games, you know, peter out there. Now they've continued to build and build. EA still puts out a great NHL game, like you said, that I will still get down on today and play. So,
and I think there's still, and just to finish that thought, there's still a pretty dedicated community of NHL 94 people.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they mod it to where they can update it with the same game engine and interface, but just with newer players.
Which is great.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And I should say, I'm pretty sure mine was 96. It may have been 95, but I always default to 96.
I still specifically remember what the box of the game looked like.
The boxes were great.
I thought
that's
I
like a
held,
piece of it right there.
Yep, exactly. So my number two, I think no surprise to well, it actually probably is a surprise because this is probably in people's, you know, maybe number one as far as our demographic goes and kind of our friends and our age group and guys especially. But it wasn't even in the top 20 of that list I checked. I don't know where it landed. I didn't get any further past Mario All-Stars. But number two for me, NBA Jam. Easy game to pick. I mean, easy game to play. So much fun. You play it against friends. The arcade obviously gets a little kick up as far as even better because, I mean, you got that giant stand-up arcade. And I think I even read somewhere when I was looking, it just made so much money just in quarter revenue, which is just insane. But we're talking about Super Nintendo here. That was actually released in North America in 1993. Or no, sorry, that was the arcade. It was actually March of 94. And I played I rented it. I played the hell out of it. I eventually bought it. And that made the trip to me to college, where even on road trips, baseball road trips, we would have team tournaments of NBA Jam. And then even beyond that, my buddy, one of my good buddies from school, the Deuce and I, him and I would play, but he would never be once he found out the codes, he would always play as Bill Clinton. He would pick Bill Clinton every time. He would throw the code in. I'm like, come on, man, let's play straight up. You know, I'm gonna be. He's like, sure. And then we get to the screen, and then sure enough, Bill Clinton's suiting up and taking the jump ball. So I played a lot of games against Bill Clinton, a lot of good hidden characters in there, and just how the game keeps it close. Nobody's ever out of it.
Right. And it's interesting. I'm really curious what your number one is. I would have thought NBA Jam was your top. Let me just jump ahead one because I had NBA Jam as number one.
We have the most boring debates. Like,
they're going to get better. We'll get into. Actually, no, they won't. But you know, it's nostalgia. Who cares? But yeah, NBA Jam. I had that as number one, and I remember I had the tournament edition. I don't really know what that meant. I don't know how that was different, but that's the one I had.
Some updates, some different players, I believe.
I think they had like an all rookie team with like Grant Hill on it and stuff. Oh
yeah, Jason Kidd, sure.
Exactly. So I had that, and I played that any time of year, hours at a time. And again, me not being one for offensive strategy, I would usually play as the Pacers, Reggie Miller and Rick Smits,
just banging threes.
I think it was Aaron McKee maybe was my partner. Yeah, my strategy was, get it to Reggie, run to the corner, rip a three, do whatever you got to do. Didn't pass it, didn't do anything. So I remember one time my dad would play against me, and I don't know if I was legit beating him or what, but I had it down. Like, an adult's got to learn the game. That's not their wheelhouse.
No.
And I remember the first time my dad took advantage of knowing that was my strategy, and he shut me down. He played great defense that game, and he beat me, and I couldn't take it. I was crying. I was so mad. And I was like 16. Yeah. No. Yeah. But no, so as a little kid, I should have told myself, like, you got to learn some better strategy. And so it's just a game that sticks with you. I actually bought the updated.
Did you ever beat your dad?
Oh, I beat the shit out of him all the time, but
And he
it was the
started to
one
loosen
time
his
out of
belt
1,000.
mid-game, and it was just,
Yeah, it was the one time out of 1,000 that he beat me that I couldn't handle, which is terrible.
it's like that scene in Little Giants that just leaves one time. You know?
Exactly.
That's all it
Yeah.
takes is one time.
That's all it takes. And I remember, so yeah, I still have that. I think I did buy that off Amazon once my buddy lent me his system. I bought it like 3-4 years ago. Played it in college. We played against each other. It's great for house parties.
Yes.
And actually, when I went to Houston, when we were hanging out in Houston a couple months ago, there was a video game bar, a nerd bar that had it. So we just sat right down, and even after a couple of years of not playing, you just pick it right back up again,
get right
and it's
into
awesome. And I remember I bought the updated version, like the Xbox 360 version, within the last couple months for Xbox One, and it's obviously not the same. It's just something about the simplicity, but it's an okay stand-in. So
Right.
yeah, just that whole theme never gets old to me. And yeah, you talk about the games never being over. The home cooking in that game is disgusting because you could be up by 25 points in the third quarter, and you better believe the opposition's coming back. So
You're gonna start bricking dunks. You're gonna start,
exactly,
yeah.
they'll block every shot. They'll swipe the ball. It'll flash white like it does when there's a change of possession. So that obviously kept it interesting, but obviously a lot of friendships were tarnished over how bad that game would just screw you if you were winning by a lot.
Great team in that. Not tournament edition, but I'm talking about regular. But they're essentially, but great team. Charlotte Hornets, Alonzo Mourning,
Yep.
Larry Johnson, some big beefy bodies, if you want to call it that. But can also shoot the three. And my strategy, spoiler for all those out there trying to beat me, I'm gonna go ahead, especially if I've got a teammate. But I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna run it. I'm going to go up for the dunk, and while I'm in midair, I'm going to kick it out to my buddy sitting at the three-point line, wide open three, book it, rip another three. So that's the game. That's the game for me. So much fun to play with friends, and lay a loss on some guys. So buzzer beaters galore. So much fun. I could pick that up right now and have a good time for a few hours.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And finally, my number one game, again, just because of the amount of times I rented this before finally my parents, Santa. My parents finally got the hint. I had rented this game weekly for so long. King Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball. A little bit more of a sim, I guess is what you call them, than Super Batter Up. A little bit more intricate. But man, this game, I was transfixed. Released in March of '94, just like NBA Jam. This game was unreal. I mean, it had stadiums, all 28 stadiums, because the Marlins and Rockies were new. Shout out to you, Ross, in Colorado.
What up?
Yeah, but the player licensing was not there, so only Griffey's name was real. The rest of the teams
that's right.
were made up. The Atlanta Braves were like famous DJs. The Red Sox, a lot of them were the cast of Cheers. So a lot of fun there. Unfortunately, I don't think you could change Griffey. Like, you could edit the names and you knew who these guys were.
Now, was this because of the strike or just the game itself?
I think it was just the players licensing.
Okay.
I
They
think
didn't get the union rights or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're just like, you know what, Griffey, you can be, but you can't change Griffey's name. So I could not change myself to King Griffey Jr. and then just have all these unreal stats. But I would always put the one thing about this game though is I would rent it for like a weekend. You rent it for 2 days, but I would always all the time start a 162 game season with the team every time. Rent it on a Friday, get through probably too much, try to go outside every once in a while, Blake, but you play. I would try to start a full season every time, and then it would be time to return it, and but then once I did finally own it, the game would erase itself anyway after a while. So you finally do get through a good chunk of the season, and then you go back to continue season. It's like, what? Nope,
don't know what you're talking
about. I don't remember this. I don't remember. So it had a home run derby. It was fun. I mean, I do recall, playing my uncle in that game, and I think even the amount of times he did play, he just wasn't picking up on it as fast as the amount of hours I'd put in. So King Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball. Still, if there was ever a tournament for that, a worldwide, Madden challenge that they have now, a worldwide event for that game, I would be all in on it. I think I would have a pretty damn good chance at that because that was my game. I put in the hours, I put in the work, and it's my number one.
Really good game. And the reason I didn't think of that is I never played that for Super Nintendo. I did play it for Game Boy. So from obviously not the same experience, but from Game Boy. That was probably my favorite Game Boy cartridge of all time. So very good. I remember one time I struck out all 27 hitters with Donovan Osborne. So that's a name for you. So yeah, a good honorable mention for me. So I skipped ahead at number 1 for NBA Jam. I'm going to go back to my number 2, Mario Kart Classic.
There it is. That was high on the list that I did see. I think that was top 10.
Yeah, just a real good multiplayer game. You could race the computer on 3 different difficulties, but me not being one for being challenged ever, I played it on 50cc every time. Maybe 100 when I was feeling ambitious, but then I'd quit halfway through because there's just too many...
Once you fell off the map.
Yeah, there's too many chocolate mud potholes, so I'm not going to deal with that. But no, I could still play that game against some of my friends today. You know, you just pick it up and you either race or there's battle mode. And of course, you know, there were it graduated on to Mario Kart for 64, which was also very good.
I couldn't touch that. Everybody's way too good at that game for me.
Oh, really? It was a little more difficult, but just a nice update, you know, to the game itself. But I actually never played a Mario Kart beyond 64, but I go back to the original. That is one of my top games of all time for any system, Super Mario Kart.
Awesome. So we're talking, you know, some of these games are multiplayers. As much of a loser as I am, as big of a loser as I know you are, Ross.
Wait a minute on that.
I
didn't sign up for this. What kind of show is this?
We actually did play games that you could play with friends. Multiplayer games, we mentioned them. And
Mostly
we did
parents.
we did play these games on multiplayer. So that kind of is really, you know, you talk about the 90s and the amount of time spent on sleepovers is all on video games, man. I don't know what girls did at sleepovers.
Nothing fun.
They did not play Super Nintendo. They did not, you know, if you were going to lose, hit the reset button real quick. Nope. Not official. That is not official. We got to start fresh. Then you and your buddies just aren't talking for a while. Or you guys start to get into a scrap, and then your buddy's mom is, what's going on down there?
Right. Oh,
Nothing.
Yeah. If parents had to get involved. Like, you weren't playing unless your parents had to get involved. And I remember just the aesthetics of the console itself were so satisfying because you had that big purple bar on the right. Swipe it up, that's a restart right there. You know, it just had this physical feeling to it. Just like, I just started the console
sensitive,
over.
so sensitive. Like you could just breathe on it and I didn't, sorry.
And
I touched it.
Exactly. And sorry, we got to start our game over. I don't care if you were beating me in every game we play.
The stats do not show it. Not
that
official.
was kid rules. Yeah. If you turn the game off, it didn't count. But it kind of an ingenious design for Nintendo on Nintendo's part because you just swipe it. It's quick. It's easy for kids to use. And it reminds me also of the bar on the left, which was the power switch. Do you remember that distinctive heavy click that it had?
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember...
a quick down and up. You're restarting the game. Yeah, click, click. Yep.
Exactly. It had that heavy click, switch it on. And I remember...
It sounded like you were loading a shotgun.
It kind of did. And that was kind of like the sound of the console right there. That heavy click, you knew it was on. And one time in like second grade, I was really early getting ready for school. So I had like 15 extra minutes. And I'm like, well, I never do this. So why don't I just sit down and play some Nintendo for a few minutes before I have to go down to the bus stop? And I'm in the den.
You never graduated.
Yeah.
You're still there today.
School was a struggle, but I had a lot of good high scores on Nintendo. And so I remember I'm in the den. I sit down. I'm like, oh, let me just sneak in 10 minutes of real quick. And I click it on, but like a shark to blood in the water, my dad hears that from across the house.
Have you brushed your teeth?
Lays on me one of those classic dad lines. Just goes, hey, bud, we're not playing Super... I can't...
We're not playing that before school, pal.
I can't even get it out because it's just such a classic. Yeah, he just goes, hey, bud, we're not playing Nintendo before school. And it's interesting because parents... You know, if you're a parent, you don't make it an option. You don't just say, hey, can you please not play that? You say, we're not playing this before school. So I tried to sneak it in once, and I learned my lesson. So.
I know you aren't playing, Dad, but I am. What was that? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't want to live under your roof. Wait, hold on.
What?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's I'm trying to think. I do know, like, when I would go to my buddy's place, a good friend of mine growing up, you know, through the, like, really through, like, 3rd through 5th grade or so, my buddy Tyler, he had 2 older brothers. His oldest brother was far enough away, you know, in age where he was cool. He was all right with us unless you did something to really piss him off. Then you're just like, You know, you just knew not to screw with him, but he was all right. It was his brother that was a couple years older than us that you would just be like, hey, do you want to come spend the night? And it's like, yeah, is your brother going to be there? And then it's like, no. It's like, cool, I'm in. If the brother was there and you knew his brother was having friends over, you knew you weren't seeing the system. It just was not, you were not getting any action on it. Or if you did get to it, that door to the den or the, you know, the room
you have to,
slide
you
open.
have to concede.
Get out of here, we're playing. And I'm like, all right, yep, sure, absolutely. Anything I can get for you. Anything I can. So you would have to just stay up super late, get up super early, or just, you know, find any amount. Maybe they would go see the new Scream movie. Maybe that's what they were going to. And you had you knew you had a couple hours there to play some Super Nintendo and then other systems as well. But you're just like, man, just you start to get into it, you're having a good time, and then nope, out, and you're like, well, I don't want to get my ass beat. So yeah, let's go do something else. I was getting tired of this anyway, so that's kind of how it was. But yeah, a lot of sleepovers involved playing lots of. Let's see how late we can stay up.
That's
playing
never,
so many video
never
games.
a good
It just
idea.
kind of got a little bit tougher when it wasn't just one friend over. When you had multiple friends over, then it got a little dicier. Ross, are you letting Jacob play?
Yes.
He doesn't.
God,
he doesn't
just...
want to. He said, "Is that true?" Yes.
He said he doesn't know how to play the game, so he's gonna watch.
Why don't we give him a chance?
Yeah.
So yeah, there was that. Why did you even invite your friends over just to play the game?
So I could show them how good I was at
definitely-
my own games.
I watched many a time. Are you sure you don't want to play? I was way too passive. No, this is fun. It's fun to just watch back here. I'm still figuring it out. You know, I don't want to screw anything up. So okay. So
Yeah, video games were very much a part of the sleepovers growing up because you always had the friend who had either the better games or the better system. And I remember I didn't have another system after Super Nintendo for years. I think I bought a regular Xbox in like 2003. So we had Super Nintendo for like 10 or 11 years at that point. Right. But yeah, it's either you go to a friend's house and you try and like maybe wake up before them, you know, early in the morning, and you try and sneak in some more time because you know as soon as you leave, you're not going to get to play this thing again, and it's way better than what you got at home. And it reminds me of like going to like either like a friend's house or like a relative's house. If your cousin had a cool system, which my cousin always did, they always had the cool system. I was hawking on that system so hard because I knew.
Ross, did you tell your aunt hello? Hi. And just take off.
That's exactly how it was. And like you'd try and just wake up and be in the room before everybody else and sneak in 20 minutes here or there. And it was just it's just with anything. There's always the friend or the relative that has something better that you just can't pull yourself away from when you get a chance to play it.
You really aren't inviting your friend over to spend the night. You're inviting their Super Nintendo over to spend the night. Like, hey, could you just bring your sister? Sure. Yes.
Pretty much.
Good.
Pretty much.
Or, you know, you get to a place, like you said, your cousins or whatever, you beeline for the den. Did you guys move that look of horror when you know where it was and then it's just not there anymore? All of a sudden it goes from the den and you go in there and it's gone. And, oh, no, we moved that to so-and-so's room. And you're just like, well, no chance. No chance at all.
And I remember, because you had to be really careful with it. I remember my cousin growing up had a Sega Game Gear, the handheld, kind of big, clunky
Who
thing.
burnt up my batteries?
And
I just turned it on.
Yeah, you had to be really careful with the batteries and everything. He had a Road Rash for Sega Game Gear, and he had, I think it was a Home Alone game. And they stayed at our house one weekend, and I woke up super early. I go downstairs, I flip on the Game Gear, I'm playing, I'm having the time of my life. But the thought being that, okay, when I'm done, I got to put the cartridges back where they were and then make sure that it's sitting on the couch the same way and then go back to bed and then make it look like I never played. Like, it was this big deliberate plan, and it made no sense at all. But that's what you had to do as a kid, you know?
One more touch on this. I thought you were going to say it too earlier when talking about your dad, but you'd say that there were those times you got to play, you got the game in before school, or you start playing and your schedule was not your schedule. It was whatever the hell your parents wanted you to do. Get in the car. We're going to Grandma's. You left that sucker on all weekend if you had to, because there was no such thing as saving except for a couple few. You get back, it's super hot. Somehow did not melt, but so there was that. But Ross, I had a good time talking about that. I mean, a lot of good memories, a lot of good games.
Yeah. And if I could just go back one time, since we're talking, we're 90s based, we're nostalgic, and we're talking about video games, I'd like to give a special shout out to the knockoff but oddly appealing NBA Jam, which was called Rap Jam. And have you ever heard of this game?
I don't think so.
Okay, basically, it probably came out in like 95, 96, but it was like NBA Jam, kind of like street basketball style with the rap stars of the day. So you had like House of Pain, you had LL Cool J, all these rap stars playing basketball, and there was like all these like 90s references, like "You're all that in a bag of chips." And so I'd just like to give a special shout out to the developers of Rap Jam, because I actually did play that game quite a lot. And
Played the hell out of it.
There was no Biggie or Tupac, but they just couldn't get them to sign on for it. But still had some pretty
why
big
do you think
names.
what happened? They should have signed on. Let's just leave it at that. They should have signed on with the game.
I really wish they would have. But anyway, special shout out to Rap Jam. Look it up. Great title. A lot of fun.
Awesome. So much fun. Yeah, great times. Ross, I think now would be as good of a time as any to let's go ahead and take a look at the 90s Athlete of the Week. What do you say? Alrighty, Ross. So you go ahead. You went and you heard the horn, so it must mean it's official now, or the organ, whatever it is. I don't know. The drunk Rangers fan.
We'll edit it in later. I don't know.
So it's official. I paused briefly to make it easier. So we're here. Random 90s athlete. You went with Jeff Montgomery last week, a baseball player. As much as I like baseball, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of those still to come, I went with a guy that actually made me think of 90s video games as well, because I played as him, and he was so clutch in Super Tecmo Basketball for the Super Nintendo. Didn't make my list, but Dana Barros, a
Great
sharpshooter, for when I played Super Tecmo Basketball, the Boston Celtics. But a quick rundown of Dana, 50 years old, so...
He's aging at a normal rate.
He's aging year by year. Currently the head men's basketball coach at Newberry College in Massachusetts. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. Still staying with basketball, but taking a look back, 5'11", but a product of Boston College, a Boston College Golden Eagle. Are they the Golden Eagles or just
I think
Eagles?
so. I think it's Boston College.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
He got drafted in 1989, first-round draft pick, 16th overall by the Seattle Supersonics. So spent a career that spanned 89 to 2002, took a year off, and then popped back in for a single game in 04. His career, 89 to 93 with the Supersonics, then got traded because he was behind Gary Payton. And sorry, you're not getting around him for a while because he was a young guy.
He's
too.
the
So
glove,
they traded
baby.
him.
The glove.
The glove. Much more competent. No room for you. Then off to the Sixers, 93 to 95, where he actually did make the All-Star team, and it was his best year. Let's see, let me just confirm that because I know 94, 95, yes, career highs in minutes and points per game, and he averaged 20.6 points per game. But like I said, a great three-point shooter with, all throughout his career, but finished off, he was the NBA's most improved player in 95. Like I said, NBA All-Star in 95. But then went on from the Sixers to the Celtics from 95 to 2000. 2000 to 2002, the Detroit Pistons took a year off, came back for one game with the Celtics in 04. And, then he dabbled a little bit further, with media relations with the Celtics, and then serves as a basketball insider. So actually this is... How does he do all of this? It says currently it's all present tense. He is the media relations department with the Celtics, serves as an insider for New England Sports Network, and offers analysis and insight for NBA. And he's also the head basketball coach at Newberry. So hat and many rings, or this just needs to be updated.
He's also the head chef at a Boston market. And
yes, he is the multi-talented Dana Barros. And also... little interesting tidbit about him too. Does have his number retired as of last year at Boston College, so obviously a great career.
Yeah.
He was in the All-Star Weekend three-point shootout from 92 to 96. Came in second twice. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride in that.
Poor Dana.
And he also held the streak for the NBA record, making at least one three-pointer in 89 consecutive games from December 23rd, 1994 until January 10th, 96, a record broken by Missouri Valley product out of Creighton. Kyle Korver broke that in 2013, but a good run for Dana there. And really, I think the best time to even bring this up, Ross, I was looking for even some other interesting facts, and it's already coming up. You can't even edit that out. That just started playing right away. What you just heard back there, and Ross, go ahead and we'll lay it down right underneath me, is Dana Barros. Lost over the years is he was a good rapper, or, at least for NBA players. Sorry, Shaq. But he appeared in the 1994 album B-Ball's Best Kept Secret.
Wow.
It was a compilation of songs by current NBA players at the time. And like I said, I was listening to it earlier. It's not bad. The video is super 90s. But it's not a bad song. His song was called Check It. Check It. It's not a bad track, and even gives a shout out to Reggie Lewis at the 3-minute mark of the song. But if we're any good at editing, we will have this playing underneath us, or even worst case scenario, to close us out here for the show. So Dana Barros, multi-talented NBA player, retired number, former All-Star, analyst, coach, chef. That one's
we can only hope, yeah.
And aspiring rap artist. So Dana, thank you for all the memories in the 90s, and thank you for all the clutch threes and NBA Super Tecmo basketball. So that's what I got here, Ross. Any closing thoughts here from you?
No, real good name on Dana Barros. I do remember him from NBA Jam. And when you mentioned the name, I thought maybe he won the slam dunk contest one time.
I think you're thinking of D. Brown.
Exactly. I realized I was thinking of D. Brown. Same initials. But still, Dana Barros, real solid career. And that was a good one. That's our goal on 90s Guy of the Week, is give you a guy who you probably haven't thought of in a while. And that's a guy I hadn't thought of in a while. So, mission accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. No, now it's just super awkward. So I think that's kind of what we're going to do, is 90s Guy to finish it off. We had a great Nintendo talk. We'd like to hear from anybody out there listening. Put it in the comments what your top 5 games were, or top games of any sort, or what system you played. Like we said,
see if you can stick to Super Nintendo, I'd say.
Yeah, that's the wheelhouse for this episode. But like we said, we know we're missing the Zeldas and the Star Foxes and all those games. But, that just wasn't our thing. Maybe it's yours. Let us hear about it. And always looking for input from other 90s kids. So, had a good time this week, Blake. I don't know about you. You had a good time?
So far, so good, man. I had so much fun. Let's do it again next week. Until we just hate each other, we'll just keep coming back.
Yeah, we'll be about 4 episodes in before this gets really old. But I feel the sponsorship coming. If you're out there and you have some money to give us to make this happen more.
We can count out my grandma, my Nana at this point.
Probably.
I felt the sponsorship was on the cusp, and I blew that. So
yeah, we mentioned Quaker last week. That's a no-go. Probably Boston Market wants no part of us. So we'll figure something out. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to tune in for our next installment, episode 3, coming your way real soon of I Just Kinda Figured.
Been down for years, Ziggy don't give a hoot if my name is on the record. Strictly for my brothers and the other, so check it. Yeah, this DB on the outro. I want to give a mad shout out to my man Reg Lewis. Rest in peace, bro.